Hi, welcome to Christy's Couch. My name is Christy Lukasiak, and thanks for hanging out with me on my couch. Happy Thursday. I hope that you are having a fabulous week. If you're anything like me, do you feel like you're on a constant state of repeat? I feel like I'm just, excuse me, I am really over the monotony of the winter and my life at this point. I got dressed today and put a purse on, like crossbody, and walked around the house just so I felt like I was going somewhere. I am definitely 1000% in cabin fever stir crazy mode for sure. So I hope you're doing a little bit better than me. So it's been a cold, long winter, and normally at this time I would be I am getting itchy, like to go somewhere, but just this year, I don't think that's possible. So I'm just going to lean into this and wear sweatpants and hang out next to my fire in my office and just, I don't know, play games. Claire and I have become professional Uno and Skippo players at this point. So maybe we can join a tournament when COVID's over. I don't know. So let's see. What is new and exciting in my world? I don't really have anything that I've watched this week that's been new. No, I really haven't. Oh my God. I feel so badly. Like I have nothing fun to report, I don't think. What have I been doing? I've been working and I've been watching just old episodes of Schitt's Creek. I was looking for an old episode of Sex and the City this week because I was like, oh, I miss watching Sex and the City. And I watched a couple of them, just sort of background noise. And that reminded me that there is that new Sex and the City reboot coming up. It's called And Just Like That. And if you're a fan of the original show, I'm sure you have heard, well, actually, even if you're not a fan of the original show, I'm sure that you've heard that they are rebooting the show, or maybe you haven't, and then you heard it here first, but they're rebooting the show, and Samantha is not coming back. There was a big falling out with Kim Cattrall. I actually don't know if it was a big falling out, but she kind of became public, or she went public and just kind of called out the rest of the cast for being kind of bitchy mean girls, which, look, I believe her. Like, I do love Sex and the City, and I know Sarah Jessica Parker is definitely America's sweetheart from that show. Everyone loves her. She has lots of friends in the entertainment industry, and no one would cross like her because she was an executive and obviously the star of that show. But, you know, someone who probably was on that show and felt frustrated by this fake friendship and this, this thought, or I can't think of the word. Oh my gosh. Just like this reputation of Sarah Jessica being like this great person was probably really frustrating to Kim Cattrall. And so she finally called it out and was just like, you know, you weren't nice to me. And that doesn't mean she's a bad person. It just means they didn't get along. So, you know, like I respect that both of them have a story. So I'm certainly not going to bash Kim, but I do know that she's not reprising the role of Samantha, which I think the whole point of that show, or the reason I loved it, was because there was this chemistry between these four women and these friends. And I just think it'll be missing something really important. And at first I wondered if, like, Samantha's character had this whole storyline with breast cancer, and I wondered if maybe they would go really dark and just say that she had passed away. But from what I've been reading, they're just going to kind of play it that people have moved on in their lives and Samantha's no longer their friend, which I don't know. Maybe they're leaving the door open in case she wants to come back, but that just rings a little false. Yeah, that happens in life, but that's not why people watch that show. So I will be curious to see how it plays out and if people like it. And then here's the other big, not scandal, but the other big news about the reboot is that Mr. Big's not going to be back. Chris Noth, who was, you know, Carrie Bradshaw. Well, Mr. Big was Carrie Bradshaw's husband, first love interest, like the one who kept getting away kind of thing, her big love in life. He's not coming back. So I would suspect that maybe they'll have him die because they have talked about like that heart situation with him. But I just am not interested in that. Like, I liked the originals. I wanted to see the show, and I was a stan. Like, that was my show. Loved it, lived, died, breathed by it. And I don't know, the more I hear about it, the less interested I am. So I don't know. How do you feel? Do you feel the same way? Could you care less about Sex and the City? If you are even close to my generation, then you definitely watched it. Even if you're not, you probably watched the reboots, or not the reboots, but like the reruns. It's a fun show. But I just don't know. Maybe I'll let them live back in New York in the 90s where they belong, or the early 2000s, like in my mind. So that's my hot take on the reboot. I hope I didn't offend any of you. And let's see. I need a new book. I think that's the problem, is I love to have a book to go to at night and just read a little bit before bed. And I don't have anything. So last night I was kind of flipping through my Kindle, and I was looking, and I was like, okay, what can I read? And everything I've read before, and I can go back and reread all of my true crime books, but there's a few books on there that I've downloaded from my childhood. I'm actually embarrassed to even friggin' say that these are from my childhood. They're from like my 12, 13. Okay, so my tweenhood, my teendom. And even then, I cannot believe that I read these books. So I went back and I was looking at them, and I'm like, should I reread these? And I started to reread Flowers in the Attic. Did anybody read Flowers in the Attic? Everyone read Flowers in the Attic, right? I mean, that was like a pop culture moment in, I think, early 80s-ish, I want to say, if I'm guessing. And I remember my grandmother had the book and the series, because it's a whole series. And I remember like the book, it's V.C. Andrews. You open it up and it had like a little window on the front, and one person's face was in it. And then you open, and it was this creepy as fuck picture of this family. And I remember staring at it as a child being like, what is this book? And then I read it, and then I was like, what is this book? Because it's all about incest, and it's very uncomfortable, and murder and just greed, but you can't put it down. You just can't. And so I started to reread it last night just out of sheer boredom. And I was like, I cannot believe someone gifted me this book when I was like 11 or 12. Like, if Clara came to me and she's like, I want to read Flowers in the Attic, I would be like, you need to be 17. That's an NC-17 book, my dear. I mean, come on, a brother and sister have sex. Like, that's weird, right? Yes, of course. So, yes, I need a book that's not incestuous from the 80s. So if anyone has any suggestions, I'm all ears, because I just need a good book. Yeah, that's about it. So I'm planning this week. I have some shoots coming up. I have to do some social media, just some things I'm working with, some different partnerships that I am excited about. And tomorrow, I'm shooting my YouTube content for the month of February. So that's kind of a behind the scenes Christy hack. I shoot my 4 videos for 1 month in a day, just because I don't have time to do them once a week. So I shoot them all in a day, and then I send them off to my editor so that they can be worked on. And it's a pain in the ass to plan it all, but once it's planned and it's shot, I'm really glad that it's over. So I'm sitting here amongst piles of things that I have to pack and take, because I'm actually not shooting in my house tomorrow. I'm shooting at like this little workspace. So we rented it for the day because I need it for a video that I'm doing. Is that a little tease? So if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you should definitely check it out, because I share all kinds of behind the scenes fun things of the Lucasiak family. And yeah, I have some fun things planned for this week or this month. So I can't wait to do that. That's about it. Like, I really have got nothing. So I feel like I've let you down. I feel like I don't have any leopard or cheetah stories. I haven't talked to you about my pets, so I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, ladies, show of hands. Who, the moment they walk into the door, rips off their bra, right? Can you see my hand raised? It's actually raised, because Yeah, because bras aren't really comfortable, are they? No, for the most part, they suck. And for years, I've been like fighting with this whole notion that bras have to be miserable. But that's not true anymore because I've totally been proven wrong. And the company that I discovered that actually changed my mind is ThirdLove. So ThirdLove uses the measurements of millions of women to design bras with all-day comfort and support. And they stand behind their products. They have a perfect fit promise. So if you don't love your new bra, you can exchange or return it for free for 60 days. And there are more than 80 sizes. Who knew there were so many bra combinations, right? But every ThirdLove bra is made with signature memory foam cups, no slip straps, love that, and a scratch-free band. And the cups range from AA to I, including half cups for real, and bands from 30 to 48. So how this works is you take the fitting room quiz, and it's a fun and it's a really easy interactive experience that focuses on breast shape, I should say, size, current fit issues, and your personal style to deliver bras and underwear that are perfect for you. And throughout the whole thing, if you have any questions, there are fit stylists available for one-on-one chats to answer any questions that you have. And like I said, ThirdLove stands behind their perfect fit promise. If you don't love it, you can exchange it or return it, and it's free. So ThirdLove creates better bras that focus on what matters, keeping you comfortable. Hell yeah, I will take that. But also, ThirdLove gives back, and they donate all of their gently used bras to women in need, supporting charities in their local San Francisco Bay Area and across the United States. ThirdLove knows there's a perfect bra for everyone, so right now they're offering my listeners 20% off your first order. Go to thirdlove.com/couch now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 20% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/couch for 20% off today. You're going to love it. But this week's episode, my guest is actually... I am so excited for you to hear this interview because I think this is exactly like the little jolt of happiness and sunshine and energy and just feeling good about ourselves that we could all use right now, because I have my friend Val Mya on the show today. And Val is someone that I have known for a few years now. She is, now for those of you who aren't into kind of like my alternative thinking episodes, I still think you should give this one a chance, because even though Val is an intuitive energy healer, which she will talk about what that is, it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in that. She just believes in just doing good things for yourself, and the advice she gives can apply to anyone, no matter what you personally believe. If you buy into, this otherworldly, it's not even otherworldly, but if you believe in alternative thinking or not, it doesn't matter, because everything Val talks about applies across the board. And she's just such a ray of sunshine, and it's exactly what we need on this cold February day. So without further ado, I am going to bring Val onto the couch. So let's welcome Val Mya. Well, hi, Val. Welcome to Christy's couch.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. Are you comfy?
I am. I'm very comfy.
You're always comfy. I think that's just your general energy, right?
Yeah, I'll take that. Comfy is a good adjective.
You're comfy. I always feel comforted when I'm near you.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Yeah, you have a good energy. Is that the right word? Oh. I mean, I guess if I'm talking to an energy healer, that is the perfect word. That's the goal. Exactly. Okay, well, I have to say, so you've definitely been a guest that I've been really, I've kind of been saving you in my hip pocket almost, oh, okay, I'm going to get Val on. I'm I'm going to wait a little bit. I don't want to bring her on right away, because it was I was excited to have you, so I was kind of saving you like a dessert.
Oh my God.
You're like a little souffle. Although, is a souffle a dessert? You're like an ice cream cone.
Oh my God. Well, souffle, I would say, is fancy. Yes. So I like that.
Okay. You're a souffle.
Okay.
All right. Amazing. Well, okay. So why don't you start off by saying, so you are an energy healer, correct? Is that your term that you prefer? Your title?
Yes.
Like if I were to go on LinkedIn, you would have energy healer.
Yeah, I mean, it would say intuitive energy healer.
Okay.
I throw that in there
Okay.
only because, as you know, I use my intuition for every aspect of what I do.
Yes.
Where if you say energy healer, which people still say this when I say intuitive energy healer, they instantly say, "Oh, you do Reiki," and I'm like, "No," but
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say I'm an intuitive energetic healer.
Okay. So what does that mean? I know what it means, but for somebody listening that's like, what the hell are they talking about? Like, what does that mean?
That, the best way to put it is I look at a soul. I see a soul. I see where it's blocking them from getting where they want to go. And how I do that is with about 9 different intuitions, because you can strengthen all these like intuitive gifts on you. So I've strengthened those. And I also will do energy work. So it's like half talking and half getting into all the pieces of someone's life, and then half energy work, meaning kind of changing the body's DNA or energy so that it's in alignment with what we talked about.
Yes, because you've actually done that for me a few times. You're like, I'm going to do some energy work after we hang up. And I'm like, great, do it.
Yeah. Yes.
Because then it's like somebody else is doing your homework. It's the best case scenario.
Yes, exactly.
Well, so I guess it would be helpful for my listeners to find out or to hear that I have known. How long have I worked with you, Val? I was trying to think back.
I mean, it feels like forever, but I'm also, has it been like maybe 2 years?
Yeah, that feels right to me. I would say, because it was Annie, a mutual friend that we have. She's funny, like, you know, because she had sent me to a psychic before and stuff. And then she was like, nope, no more psychic. She's like, Val's where it's at. And so then I came and I talked to you, and I was like blown away by some of the things that you and I spoke about, which we'll get into more detail in a little while. So I've known you for about I think that's about right, 2 years. I think it was right before Chloe moved to Los Angeles full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels about right. Okay. And like I was struggling with some things with her. I think it was mostly Chloe I was struggling with. Just that whole sense of like separating and leaving my child, you know, for the first time, you know, being on 2 separate areas. But that's okay. So we've worked together for about 2 years. And I see you, I'm one of your frequent flyers, I feel like.
Yes.
I will call you, or I'll actually text you if I'm feeling like I want to talk to someone, and you usually know, or you'll say like, no, let's not talk right now. Like you can hang in there or we'll wait a week. And so what makes you determine whether it's right for you to talk to me? Do you just check in?
Yeah. So what I do is I kind of ask an intuitive question of, on a scale of 1 to 100, how much does this soul need a session? And if it's not in the 80s or the 90s, I pretty much will say no. I've done it in the 70s, like 78%.
Okay.
Because, you know.
Yeah, you're close enough.
Yeah. But that's how I determine.
Okay. So when I call you and I'm like at 120, you're like, please come in tomorrow. Because I mean, I'm sure that there have been days that I've contacted you that you're like, oh, Christy's at a 99. Yes, we need to talk. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I will say just that number really is not if someone's like losing their mind, because it could be a soul that like is totally fine, but is ready to level up. So they're in the 90s and they need new ways of looking at life. So it doesn't mean someone is like, you know, freaking out in life. It just means they're leveling up and they need some sort of guidance there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's kind of funny because clearly, well, I shouldn't say clearly, like you live in Los Angeles, like I realize that a lot of sort of this alternative way of thinking is very prevalent there. And sometimes this doesn't reach other parts of the country. So that's why I love having people like you on the podcast, because I think it's so interesting, and I think it makes such sense. And just kind of like having people think about things and just knowing that people like you exist, I think opens up a whole different world and thought process and mindset. So I was really excited for people to hear from you, because I'm sure there's listeners that had no idea that a person like you even existed, I will say. So you're kind of like a unicorn.
Oh, God, all these great.
I know,
I'm taking
Val.
all of it.
I know. This is the feel-good day for you.
Okay, good. Well, no, I love that, because I think a lot of people also think you can't do this type of work if you're not in the physical room with somebody.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's not true at all. I'm saying that's true. People think that, but it's absolutely not true, because I've done the majority of my sessions with you over FaceTime.
Totally. And a lot of my clients don't live in LA. I mean, obviously a ton do, but I have people like in different countries. So like this type of work has nothing to do with somebody being in a room. I can read energy of, you tell me a person, I can dive into that energy, and that person can be. So I think it's helpful for people to know that this type of help or guidance is out there, and you, even if you don't live in LA or live somebody that in an area that has stuff like this, it's available.
It's available. Yes.
Yeah.
In the past couple of years, I have definitely become a lot more health conscious. I try to eat clean. I definitely at least try to go for a walk every day if I'm not totally exercising. And I've added a daily multivitamin into my routine. And I feel like we deserve to know what we're putting into our bodies, especially when it comes to something that we're taking every day, right? And that is one of the reasons I love Ritual, because Ritual's clean, vegan-friendly multivitamin is formulated with high-quality ingredients in bioavailable forms that your body can actually use. You won't find sugars, GMOs, major allergens, synthetic fillers, or artificial colorants. And this is my favorite part, the fresh taste and delayed release capsule design make taking my vitamins easy. Now, I've been taking Ritual for a little bit over a year, and I can say that time release, no nausea feeling is absolutely the thing that has changed my vitamin experience. I didn't like taking vitamins before because every time I did, I felt sick, and I don't get that feeling with Ritual. Also, a multivitamin should contain key ingredients and forms that your body can actually use to help fill the gaps in the diet, not any shady extras. And Ritual's delayed release capsule design delivers high quality nutrients, including vitamin D3, in just 2 daily pills. Amazing, right? Plus, your multivitamins are delivered to your door every month with free shipping always. So you can start, snooze, or cancel your subscription anytime. And if you don't love Ritual within your first month, they'll refund your first order. So get key nutrients without the BS. Ritual is offering my listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/couch to start your Ritual today. Really quick aside note before I get into your background, because you said you can read like different people's energy. Have I ever asked you? Because this would not be out of left field. Did I ever ask you about Ted Bundy? Because that sounds like a question I would ask you. I can't believe I haven't, because that's always like, wait, tell me about Ted Bundy. Like I had them read his aura once because I'm fascinated by him as a serial killer, because I think he's the scariest of them all. I just do. That's my own personal like I lock the door and I think of Ted Bundy. Like I don't know why he makes me so afraid. But that's funny that I've never asked you that.
No, you haven't. Huh. And it's funny because there's a lot of people who will ask me all those like random questions. Like, can you just tell me about this person?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you never have.
Well, next time we talk personally, or do you want to give me any little insight? He was a dark, dark man, right? Obviously.
Yeah. Look, as much as there's light energy, there's dark energy also on this planet. We have to have balance, right? So think of like all of us souls as like little outlets. You know, we have energy. So dark energy can like cord into light energy because it needs energy. So he has a lot, or had a lot of stuff, you know, on him that kind of overrides your mind a little bit and kind of can throw you all over the place. But it can feel very real to the person, like very real. Yeah. So,
well, we don't have to get into him, but that's just funny that I've never
saying.
asked, because that's so like in my wheelhouse to be like, Val, tell me about Ted. Val and Ted sounds like a 70s sitcom. Anyway.
I mean, we could have a whole podcast on like serial killers and all of that. Because
you just hold on, because that's definitely something I would be into for sure. Like, you are speaking my language. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the natural first question that people are probably thinking is, how in the hell did you think like, okay, I'm going to be an intuitive energy healer because I have these gifts? Like, how did this come to, how did you come to this realization? And how old were you? And what was that like experience or journey?
Yeah, ever since I was little, I mean, you can ask my mother. She would come home and I'd be like in tears, and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh my God, there's a ghost in our house." And she didn't believe me at first, but she was very supportive.
Okay.
And I would explain to her what I saw. And then I guess some other time later in life, someone was like, "Oh, I see ghosts." And she asked them how they saw it, and they explained it the exact same way. So that's when she's like, "Oh, maybe my daughter actually sees these things." Yeah, but I saw them. And funny enough, our house had a fire, and where I used to see the ghosts is where the fire started. But yeah, so I used to see a lot of stuff. I also was very stimulated as a kid. I had no idea what the heck was going on, but I felt everything, like down to a rock, a person. I felt, and it did drive me crazy.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine.
As a kid, I was insanely emotional and very spitfirey, and like, I don't know, I was a cannonball ready to burst at any time.
Okay. That's so funny to me, because I feel like you're so calm now, but okay.
Yeah. Well, because now I understand what my body's doing all the time, where back then I had no idea. I mean, and I also grew up in a very small town in upstate New York where none of this type of stuff would ever exist. So there was no support. I mean, I was practically failing high school, and they're like, your daughter is dumb. But no, I couldn't read because I saw past the word. And I didn't see the words, I saw energy. So to me, I was like, I don't know what's happening.
That's so wild.
Yeah. So, and, a lot of high frequency souls that are meant to do this are the ones that do not fit into society boxes.
Well, that makes sense.
So, yeah. And so I did not back then. So I struggled quite a bit. As a kid, I had depression. I just thought at some point maybe would end up in like some padded room, maybe. Mm-hmm. But then I covered it really well. Like, I was a Leo and I was a Spitfire. So I was very vivacious at the same time. I don't know if you know this, but I was a dancer. Did I ever tell you that?
I did not know that. I feel like you just revealed this deep, dark secret to me. Like, how could you never have told me that, Val? It's like you've been cheating on me. Go on.
I know.
So you're a dancer, or you were a dancer.
I was a dancer from 5 years old, and so I moved to New York City to dance.
Shut your mouth.
At like 14 on my own. I don't know. I guess we're always like business when we talk, but
I cannot believe I did not know that.
Yeah. So I danced, and that was my way of expressing everything that was in my body at the time. Like, I had to get it out somehow.
No wonder why you and Chloe get along.
Yes, I know. Like-minded. Mm-hmm. So I moved to New York City at 14 on my own, and I was there. But I was still behind. Like, I was not meant to be a dancer. But I went that route. Kind of hurt my ankle, so I moved to LA to do acting, and that wasn't my thing, and I knew that. And pretty quickly, nothing really was working, and I was pretty depressed. And after many years of like struggling and finding my way, I hit pretty hard rock bottom, like, really badly mentally. And my dear friend, who's still my friend, Elizabeth, she's like, you should go see this healer. Like, I think he can help you. She like did anything possible to get me there. And I got there, and, he woke me up to who I was. He's like, you're supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And he like changed my life. And all of a sudden things started turning on even more, like all my abilities, and they all started to make sense. Like my whole life made sense the minute I met him.
Oh,
because all of a sudden, yeah,
interesting.
it was crazy because he was just like, this is why you're this way. And I'm like, oh, God, I wish someone told me that like 20 years ago.
Well, right. But you've told me a million times that you have to go through the worst to get to where you're supposed to be.
100%. And if I was not in that state of like complete breakdown, I would have never reached out and paid the amount of money I paid to see this person at that time. And I did. And I mean, and then all of a sudden I spent 2 years just like harnessing all of like my intuitive gifts and stuff. And that's where my life completely took a turn.
Okay. So did the healer you go see, did he end up being your mentor?
Yeah. So he's a dear friend of mine, and he's like family at this point.
Right. I would imagine. And that's funny because I know that you see quite a few people. Have you ever met someone that you're like, you are a healer?
Yes. Yes.
Do I know this person?
Yes.
It's not me or my children, just to make that clear. It's not. It's a mutual friend that we have, right?
Yes.
Is that the only person that you've met that you've said like, oh, you're a healer?
No, there's been a few. And I will say recently healers are waking up.
Okay.
So much right
because
now.
The world.
Because, yes. So I've gotten a lot recently in the past year, more so than ever. I'm like, oh my God. Like, here's another one. Okay, time to wake you up completely. But every healer has a different journey and different way of doing it. So, but yeah, I've definitely had that.
That's really interesting. So how do you know somebody's a healer? You just feel it, or you know it, or?
There's all different forms of healers. I would say there's like, I call it like the first, there's like the bleeding healer, the ones that are having to remember they have to put themselves first. And then there's like this healer who's kind of doing what I do. I don't know. I know it based off of frequency. Like we all vibrate at a certain frequency because we're all energy. So I'll look at somebody's ability to vibrate, like how high, and that kind of tells you how old the soul is. It tells you how much experience they've had on this realm. So they will, and also I'll channel like, oh, they're supposed to be doing healing work.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, but there's definitely different forms of healers. I'll say that there's people who are artists who are healers in that form. So
yeah, for sure. Oh, I definitely think that. There were so many things that I remember as a child, some of my favorite books or movies or TV shows that I go back to now as an adult, and they don't hold up. Like I go back and I rewatch things and I'm like, this is terrible. But things have really come a long way since I was a kid. I mean, because that was a while ago, right? And it seems like now we get more instant classics every single year. And you know what's an instant classic in my book? Actually, it's a game, and it's Best Fiends, the top-rated mobile puzzle adventure game, and possibly the best puzzle adventure game. And I love Best Fiends. I have been playing Best Fiends for years. It kept me company on the back of very long bus rides, if you know, you know. And it definitely was always something that I look forward to playing. And I don't even know what level I'm on at this point because I have played for so long. And one of the best parts about Best Fiends is that they keep adding new levels. So I never get tired of solving the puzzles. And that means that the fun really never ends. So be careful though. I'm just warning you. If you become slightly obsessed, don't blame me. However, I definitely think that you should download Best Fiends and try it out today. So download Best Fiends free today on the Apple App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends. Just to kind of explain to people, because I'm sure you're probably using words and terms that everyone's like, what the hell? Because if you're not familiar with it. So as you said, everyone is energy. Like, do you want to explain a little bit how energy moves through the world? And then I'll ask you a second question, then we'll get into how people can help themselves with what some of the basic principles that you teach are. Yeah.
So this was proven by Albert Einstein. So this is science behind this, all of it. We are all energy. So ourselves, our body is energy. Everything around you that you see is energy. That means there is light that's moving at such a fast pace you can't see it. Everything on this planet, and it's the only thing we all have in common, is energy. So that's where I'm always like telling people, like, guys, this is very important. If this is the only thing we all have in common, why is that? And how does it work together?
Okay.
And how it works together.
You're not just talking about humans. You're talking about everything on the planet.
Everything.
Okay.
Down to, why, plants grow is there's energy in it. Everything has energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Anything you're sitting on currently has energy.
Interesting. Okay.
Christy's couch has energy.
My what? Oh, Christy's couch.
Your couch.
My couch has very pink energy. I'm just saying.
Yes.
It's very, very vibey. Okay. So when you talk about, you read people's vibrations, do you want to explain? You can use me as an example. I don't mind because we've known each other for a long time and I'm very comfortable with just sharing. So how high of a vibrator am I?
So pretty much where you're at right now is about, let me see, you're around 580 out of 1,000.
Okay, so I'm a little better than average. I'm like a D plus.
And this is important. If you vibrated at 100, it doesn't mean you're less than. And that's where it gets like tricky because everyone's like, oh, what do I vibrate at? And this is so important. And it really just tells you how many times you've come back to this lifetime, how many times it's pretty much the higher you vibrate that frequency, right? It means you're letting go of human limitations, the human stuff that really doesn't matter. We all have these thoughts and these fears, and all the fears are the things that are human.
Okay. Very accurate.
If you have a fear of something, it means it's limiting you. It means it's holding you back for a reason. And that reason is something very human that has to be shifted and let go of so you can expand, right? So you can become as bright and vibrant as possible. And the more you let go of this human limitation, you're kind of mastering this experience and now you are excelling and kind of being your own creator, if that makes sense.
Yes. And I think I'm trying to think of it like an example that happened in my life, like a fear. I think, would you say when I was fearful, when I talked to you, that my only sense of self was I only identified with being a mother?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a good one. So I only identified when we first met as being a mother, and I connected all of my worth to my children. And so anytime they struggled or failed, and I'm using that word very loosely, whatever failure means, I took that as like a gut punch, and you helped me to let go of that and go beyond that. And do you want to chime in or say anything?
Yeah. And
no, I'm just saying because I'm like at a loss. So I'm like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, but no, that's exactly what it is. It's like the limit was I'm only a mother, and that is not expansive enough. We're all so expansive. So when I met you and we had to let go of that limitation, the minute you started seeing yourself as all these other things and started to view yourself in a different way, all of a sudden your life started shifting with it. And this is why what we should be doing always is, as souls, as we evolve, is letting go of things that limit us.
Right.
And as you let go of them, you raise in frequency and you become more powerful.
Yes.
So you get things quicker.
Well, and I think the perfect example, like just giving people something tangible that they can relate to. Is so when I went through that and I was really struggling and I was talking to you and you kept saying, you need to be working with young women. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I was so frustrated with you. Remember, like I would cry and I was so mad at you. And I'm like, and I wasn't mad at you, but I was mad at myself through you, and I was like, I don't understand. And you kept saying, you have to be talking to women about self-confidence. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know what that means. And and you kept like pushing me. And then finally, when I started like really sitting down and thinking about things, and then things started clicking into place. And I don't think I'm at the end or I have, found the perfect thing, but I definitely think I'm on the right path with just, doing my adulting program and speaking to sororities and groups across the country about, guess what? Self-confidence every night, every single time I start a presentation. And I'm like, tonight we're going to talk about self-confidence. I'm like, Val.
Yeah.
But I could not see that for myself.
Yeah.
And you made me see it.
And that's not your fault. And that's the biggest thing for people to remember is like, we have these limitations because our soul chose it. It's not your fault you didn't see it. And yes, I will tell you, whatever you kick and scream about is the thing you actually need to go towards. The more you fight it is actually how more accurate it is.
Oh.
I mean, so I wasn't surprised. That's why, I don't know if I told you this at the beginning when we first met you. I always say, like, on my first session with somebody, I'm like, if you disagree with something, tell me. Because that's always my sign. I'm like, oh, I've hit it right on the head.
Oh. What did I disagree with?
Well, yes.
Everything? I was like, no, you're wrong.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. And then once you got into it, things move in your life and shift with it.
Yes. And I can attest to that. Like, I really can attest to it. And, it's made such a big difference, but I think, I try to be open-minded about things. But then, of course, I struggle just like everyone else, and I can't see things. And then I'm like so mad and frustrated and angry, and I don't want to see it. And then I'm like, ugh. And then I will, sometimes when something clicks, I will text Val and I'm like, you little witch. I call her a little witch sometimes, but in a nice way. Like, I'm like, you're a witch. And she's like, well, but I mean it in a loving, like, whatever.
No, of course.
And I'm like, how did you know that? And you're like, because. So,
yeah.
Well, I mean, this is great. We can always talk about me because I'm always like, tell me more about me and my children, which I think
I love it.
I know. And you're always very sweet, but I think it's interesting. Just one kind of quick thing that I think listeners would be interested in hearing is that both of my children are very high frequency humans. Like, I guess the other word that would be like old souls, but is that really a shock to anyone? I don't think so. Like, I think it's obvious that my kids are old souls, which means they're, I don't know. Sometimes they like frustrate me. I believe, are both of them like higher frequencies than me? I know Chloe is. So sometimes like I struggle because like she's teaching me things. Yeah.
Yeah. You and Claire are very close, but it's just different. And again, it's just, but no matter what, you guys are all teaching each other. But that is why, Chloe will push you because it's just, you guys are teaching one another.
Right. So, and that's why we go through things that we're like frustrated with each other. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what side you look at it, because we have had such a public relationship, people notice it and they will comment and like have their own thoughts and critiques of it. And I'm like, look, we go through things just like everybody else. Unfortunately, the world, I don't want to be like the world is watching, but people are tuned into it. And so like, sometimes I don't want to explain, like, look, we're having a minute, leave us alone.
And I hope people understand that because you guys are humans just like everyone else. And you're gonna hit moments of struggle or pushing one another. And sometimes you do need a minute to walk through something like that. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to speak for a few weeks. And, we had gone through that before and everyone was up in arms on Instagram. And I'm like, it's none of your business. But, to be fair, I've made it people's business because I do share. But, there are things that I'm just like, I want to keep that close to the vest. Because it's just, but then I do try to be honest so that other people don't feel alone, like everybody goes through things. Okay. So for people listening, I think this is one of the most fascinating things that I've learned from you. And I've actually stolen it. So if you've patented or copyrighted, then I owe you some money. When I speak to my sorority groups, I often will get questions about just, different things and balance. Balance is always a key word that a lot of young people use because they struggle with keeping like a sense of themselves while they're in school, you know, just all of those types of things. And I think it's really interesting that how do we call this? Like you said that there's 3 things that people all need to have in their lives for a balance, or am I saying this wrong? Like, please correct me.
Yeah, I call it the base to all humanity.
Okay. Well, that's very dramatic.
It is very dramatic, but it's dramatic for a reason, because technically without one or all 3 of these, everything you experience in life will come back to it. It always will. So it's like, I say this, before you get into like really playing around with other things in the universe, these 3 areas are the first key to any soul, any frequency. They have to remember, like, you know, how I used to struggle back in the day. I didn't have these 3 in my life. I had to remember it. And then once I remembered it, I was like, okay, got it. Moving on.
And I still struggle with some of these at times. I mean, and I'm aware of it.
Totally. And that's the difference between some older souls and newer souls, where, like, I just had someone had to tell me it, and I was like, oh, right. Where then there's the newer souls who are like, wait, what? Okay, I get it. But like, this is harder for me.
Sure.
And that just kind of, you know, it's about ingraining it into your soul and your body. But yeah, I call it the base to all humanity.
Okay. And do you want to talk about do you want to start with the first one?
Sure.
Or should we do the all 3? Well, start with the first one.
Okay. The first one, which this word is thrown around so often, right? Is self-love.
Oh, yes. I love self-love. Everyone's self-love. Everybody, you know, self-care, self-love, you know, yes.
Yep. So, and I will say, I think, I don't think it's explained properly all the time, but that's fine. I pretty much say what self-love is putting yourself first.
Yes.
You have to come first, right? Yes. So like on a plane where they say, put your mask on before helping others, that is self-love.
Yes.
You have to have your cup full before helping anyone else.
You cannot show up for others until you can show up as a full version of yourself.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people struggle with this because they think, for instance, let's just say a friend calls you and wants your help, but you're so drained and tired and you feel bad for not being there for your friends. So you talk to your friends. That's not putting yourself first in that small little act right there, just like a friend calling you, you know? And in that moment, what if you didn't call her or, you know, talk to her and she figured it out on her own? That's her win that you maybe took away from her, where she could go off, figure it out on her own and come back and be like, oh my God, I figured it out. I feel amazing. And then, you know, 2 people win. But if you go against what's good for you, it's going to go against what's good for them.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Because I was like, wait, what? But no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you have to take care of yourself. If you're too tired, say, I can't right now. I'm sorry. You take care of yourself. She goes away. Then you come back together and you're both
doing great.
Doing great.
Whatever was best for her was going to happen. So a lot of people go against what's best for them because they care so much about other people. And I always say this is that what is best for you will be best for them. You have to trust that. So it's about embodying, really putting yourself first in every scenario.
Yes. Okay. So, a great example, like a good, like a solid, tangible example. Would this be when you talked to Chloe about going out to lunch by herself? Is that, or is that something different?
No, that is that. So I do this sometimes with clients where I'll look in and find like their love language, because sometimes it's like, why not fill yourself up with how you receive love? And hers was quality time. So, for her, it's filling herself up was schedule, you know, a weekly date with yourself. Go take yourself out and give yourself the love you want to return from the world. So yes, that's a form of filling yourself up. So it's smart. I always say this with self-love, you should put it into your week instead of like waiting until like you go on vacation and you need a vacation because you're so drained. You should put the vacation into your week. That's how. Yeah.
Well, and you made me do it because do you remember what my self-love assignment was?
Oh gosh.
No, you don't have
I
to.
don't know.
I'll tell you.
Yes.
My self-love assignment was to get a weekly massage because I do a lot of things that you can see. Like if I got my nails done or my hair done or, stuff like that. If I worked out, you're like, other people can see that. That's not just for you. Because I'm vain and what have you. Like I want to present myself a certain way to the world. And you're like, that's not self-love. And so
you're not vain.
No, I'm saying, like, to me, I am vain. Absolutely. I think most people are. I don't want to say vain, but just like, you want to appear a certain way.
Sure.
But you were like, you need to do something that only you benefit from it. And I freaking struggled with that. Yeah. As I think most people would, and I would especially think women would struggle with that maybe. Maybe moms-ish. I feel like that's a mom thing.
Moms, for sure.
Would struggle with that.
Yeah, because they always want to put their kids first. And I always say this to moms. I say, guess what? If you put yourself first, you're now teaching your children to put themselves first. It's the best thing you could do for them. So, yes, a lot of moms struggle with it. Most every soul does because, it's the base to every soul on this planet. You have to learn self-love. And it's the best way to do it is just put something into your schedule and don't move it for anyone, anything, or anybody. And it is now just as much as brushing your teeth is a habit, you should have a self-love activity in your week that's a habit. And it can't be external validation stuff like working out, getting your hair done, or your nails done. That's a form of, like giving yourself maybe some glamorous love, but it's an external form of validation. It has to be internal.
Okay. So something like a massage, taking yourself to lunch. Any other things pop up in your mind that might be a good example?
I'm trying to think. I haven't given some in a while. So it would be 5 minutes in the morning, putting yourself first before you help anyone else, before you look at your emails, your texts, any of that, making a list of why you're amazing for 5 minutes every morning.
I love that.
You up.
And that's something every single person can do, because I feel like some people can say like, oh, I can't afford a massage, or I don't have time to do this. Like everyone can put 5 minutes into their schedule to remind themselves why they are amazing in the morning.
Exactly. And that's, when I work with people, it's always that fine line of like what's best for them. It's like they should invest in themselves with money.
Sure.
Because you should, right? And just to let you know, when I first did this, I had to do 3 massages a week. I mean, at the time, I was like, I can't afford that. Like, I was in my mind, I was like, there's no way I can do this. And I did it, and it changed my life. And from this, I will never not give myself that. And I'm supported financially also because of it.
Yep.
So just know, if you invest in yourself, it's the best thing you can do. But yes, a 5-minute exercise in the morning of saying why you're amazing, anyone can do that.
Sure. And I totally agree. And this is a completely another conversation, but that argument that I don't have the money is like the most insane thing to me in the world, because you're investing in yourself. And like when people say, well, why isn't this free? Because things aren't free. Like people don't put value on things that are free. So if something is free, people think it's worthless. And you actually helped me work through that when I was pricing out like my membership, because I was struggling with that. I was like, well, why should I charge these people? And you were like, absolutely, you have to, because if not, nobody's going to value it. And that makes sense.
They won't. Yeah. And then they're not doing what they're meant to, like, they'll throw it into the garbage instead of actually doing it and actually benefiting themselves. So 100%, it works on both ends. And whenever you invest in yourself, you get it back tenfold. And I swear by that. Every time I've pushed the limit on spending, and trust me, I've spent a ton of money on self-care and self-help. Anytime where I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot. It's always paid off.
See, I'd love to hear that, because I think people are afraid to invest in themselves. And that doesn't mean it has to be billions of dollars. Like it just has to be, whatever. What is hard for you might be not hard for me, or vice versa, or it doesn't matter. It's just you have to commit to yourself in some way.
Exactly.
I love that. And I do love self-love. And that was definitely a place I struggled. So I feel like I could go back to the massages, though. I need to put that back on my calendar. I miss those.
Yeah, you should. And I will say, once you ingrain it enough, you start subconsciously doing self-love activities. So you don't technically need the massage anymore. But because things are getting very intense, when that happens and you're feeling that, throw it back in there.
Sure.
You know?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
Okay. So then what is the second part?
Second one would be self-image.
Okay. What does that mean?
Now, this one is how you acknowledge yourself and how you see yourself. Now, this one's a bit trickier because self-love, once you embody it, it pretty much can stay, right? Where self-image, if you go through a major change in your life, you might need to adjust your self-image. So this one you have to kind of be a bit more, you have to pay attention to a little bit more. But it pretty much means kind of how we were talking about you and how you saw yourself just as a mother, right?
Yep.
That was limiting. That was your self-identity. It was too small. And that's pretty much what everyone struggles with, is seeing themselves too small, minimizing who they truly are. And that's what self-image is.
Okay.
And I will say right now on the planet, this is the biggest thing going on right now is self-image.
So people think they think they're smaller than they are and they're limiting themselves. So think bigger.
Exactly.
Think bigger.
Think much bigger.
Well, I mean, I think most people would welcome that, right? Like, that's an exciting thing to think, like, okay, I can be more. Like, who doesn't want to be more? Although I guess sometimes that could be scary.
It can definitely be scary. And also, you have to think of what makes you special. And a lot of people don't think they're special. They're like, well, what makes me more special than this person that I just saw on Instagram, right? You have to remember that we all have something that we came into this lifetime to do, every single one of us. And it's unique to our soul. And it's important right now for everyone to find that or to connect to the fact that you're just special. That's it. Your self-image will go sky high through the roof. And what happens is the world will start noticing you. And you will start getting opportunities and you will start attracting things. It's like you're a bright light, right? That's what it's doing. It's turning your light all the way on. And then you'll attract everything.
You're like a bug light. But no, seriously. Yes. No, but I do love that so much. And like, that's such a, like, I hope everybody just stopped and backed up and listened to that again, because that's such an amazing thing to think about. You know, the more, like, when you think more highly of yourself, the world is going to return that to you. So you just have to adjust how you think of yourself.
Totally. And a big part of this and why it's hard is that there's this common thought in society that if we're all successful, none of us can be. And that has been instilled in everything that we read, watch, all of it. So it's this constant thing of like, only the top elite can be up here. But really, if we all were in what we were meant to do, we would all be successful. Every single one of us. So it's just so important to ignore society programming that says, minimize yourself. You can't do that. There's no way. That's too hard. Trust me. Like when I was told I was supposed to be a healer, I cried for 5 hours because I also was like, how the heck am I supposed to do that?
Yeah. I'm sure.
You know? And I could have run the opposite way because, of course, in my head, I was like, there's just no way. There's all these other healers and they're already, 50,000 feet in front of me.
Right.
If I listened to that, I would have never gotten to where I was supposed to be. So don't listen to all of that and just know that none of that is true. That you all have something that you're meant to do and you are special and unique.
Yes. And that leads me to two points. One thing that I think is really interesting is how you said the world is struggling with self-image. I definitely think 2020 just was sort of a reset button. You had said that. Other people I've heard say that. And, I feel as a society as a whole, like when we make choices and we pursue things, a lot of times it's financially driven because that's what we're told. Like you have to support yourself. And it is scary to think like, what lights me up? What do I love? But you are a perfect example. And you're probably like the fifth one that's crossed my plate this week that I'm like, oh, that's another example that you have found what you're supposed to do and the income has followed it.
Yeah.
You know?
It always will.
Yeah.
And I remember I told you that when you do what you're meant to do, you will be supported. The universe has to back it because it's like, oh, great. She or he found it. Now let's fuel it. Let's get them where they need to be. The only reason why it wouldn't is if, like in that moment, you're learning something new. And then all of a sudden you get pushed again, but you always get backed.
So when you're doing what you're supposed to do and not going against things and like trying to force something, like that's an important point to like keep in mind. So, okay, everyone love themselves.
Like, yes, put yourself first and to know that you're special.
Put yourself first and be, like, see, this is such a great listen this week. And then finally, and this one is such a fun one to talk about, although it's probably my biggest source of frustration. Go ahead. Sure. I know what it is.
Yep. Passion hobby. It's funny because you would not think that this is so important, right? Like having fun, having a skill that is nothing to do with work and making money. This is, I'm with you, Christy. Like I struggled with this one out of any of them the most because I'm a workaholic. I love to work
too. I love it because it's my fun. Like I'm like, oh, what else can I do? And
exactly.
When you tell me, can you hear that beeping?
No, I cannot.
Oh, I wonder. Hold on. Let me just make a mark. I'm trying to get a phone call in. I'll have to take this edit out. Okay.
Sure.
I'll just make a note. Okay. Yeah, like I love what I do now and I'm excited about it. And so I'm always like, I could sit at my computer and like research things or come up with ideas or brainstorm or whatever, plan until midnight and then get up at 6 a.m. the next day and not do anything. And it's hard. It's hard for us workaholics because I feel like this is fun.
Totally. Especially when you do what you love to do. You're like, no, I'm good. But the thing is that we're not, as much as I say, okay, we all have a purpose. That is not the only reason why we're here. It is a very big part of it, but we also have to enjoy this experience and do something just for ourselves that fuels us. And a passion hobby is that energy of, when you have a passion hobby in your life, that means you have passion all over your energy field, right? So what that does is it makes people passionate about your ideas. It makes your relationships really passionate. It resets the brain so that you can start to really channel and bring in information for whatever you're doing. It's literally like the fuel tank to everything we do on this planet.
Having a hobby. Is everyone listening? Like having fun is what you need to do. Like that sounds so counterintuitive to what we've learned our whole lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's crazy is, you know how I say this is the base to all humanity, right? So these 3 areas. Passion hobby also then gets moved into these 8 areas, which is a whole other conversation of balance, right?
Yes.
God. It's in both categories. So that's how important it is. It's in the base to all humanity and it's in the 8 areas. Of your life.
So you have to have a passion hobby. Now, my very first time I met with you, you told me I had to have a passion hobby. And then you told me, how about cooking? And I almost punched you. Because I hate cooking so much. I was like, never. And you were like, no, it has to be something like cooking. And I was like, that's a no. And and I think we talked about other things. Horseback riding was something that came up high for me, which actually I had called and scheduled, and I was actually going because it took me so long to even acknowledge that I had to have a passion hobby. And then COVID hit. Literally, like, we went into lockdown like the day before I was supposed to go to my first. And it was really fun. The place I was going to, they were doing like, I don't know, cocktails and hooves or something, whatever. So it was like a fun ladies' night. And I was like, this is perfect. I get to drink and then ride a horse. But then I never did it. So my passion hobby has now turned into walking my dogs.
Well, and this is something to note is that if you can't physically do it, right? Think of somebody who's like possibly like can't move. Let's say somebody's paralyzed. They should still be able to have a passion hobby. Well, that might be something with their hands, or it might be just researching it. If you research, how to horseback ride, it actually will boost your number. It'll boost your energy up a lot. So during, last year, a lot of I was sailing. So I did a lot of,
I
learned a
remember
lot
you
of sailing
sailing.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would do it on the computer. I would research stuff, on YouTube or on PDFs that I had. And yes, is it as much fun as going on a boat? No, but do I know that just that little bit of doing that will boost everything else? 100%. So I do it.
Yes.
And it's still enjoyable.
Wait, I just thought of something. I need to matchmake you with someone I know because she would love to talk to you. She would be so into talking to you. She's such a wonderful, bright spot in my life. It's someone I work with, but she lives on a sailboat. Her and her husband ditched the world and they live on a sailboat. Right now they're in Mexico living in a little, what is it, a casita, I think it's called?
Yeah.
Just because of the pandemic. But her full-time life is on a sailboat. But she's very... I'm going to give her your name whenever you have time in your schedule.
Yes.
She'll call in. She would love to talk to you. Look at me being a matchmaker.
Look at you.
I am.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, sailing is it's hard, but I'm learning. And that is something to remember. It should be hard.
Okay. Interesting.
It should. If it's too easy, you'll get bored. It should be a challenge.
Oh, I'm not cooking. I'm just saying. But yeah, something.
Well, it's so funny when you said that. I was like, oh, you should become the best cocktail mixer.
Oh, I would love that. I'll learn how to make all kinds of drinks. That's fun. That's a great hop. I am going to be the greatest. Yes. Oh my God. I'm going to be a mixologist. That just made me excited.
See? And that is exactly what you should feel right there in that moment. That excitement, just thinking about it changes your field, and then go do it. And guess what's going to happen?
That would be so fun.
See? Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to be a mixologist.
Yes. It's so funny when you were talking about kids. I just kept hearing, just tell her to make drinks. I'm like, there it is. Okay.
I love that. Okay. So much better than cooking. Cooking, no. Mixologist, yes.
Yes.
And then I can have all the cute little tools and they can all match. Exactly. And then it just is a whole vibe. I love it. See? So cute. Well, okay, so passion, hobby. And then it's just something that it has to be hard because you said if it's too easy, you get bored. And it has to be something that does not relate to you having an income or making money.
Yeah. The minute you start making money off of it, it's no longer a passion hobby. So you should know making money. You should schedule it weekly minimum. And it should be a skill, something you learn and master, something you can get better at. You can't hiking is not a passion hobby. That is you're walking.
So walking the dogs around the block is not my passion hobby.
Correct. You can't get better at it. You can now train your dogs. Now that could be a passion hobby because you can get better at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But walking them wouldn't work.
Okay, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So passion, hobby. Okay, so then just to wrap up, to recap, we have self-love, self-image, and passion, hobby. So make a note in your planner. We need to add all of these things weekly. Don't forget to do those things. Oh, that actually reminds me. I need to put that on a list of something. Perfect. Have to make my own list. Well, Val, tell everyone, because I am certain that everyone is going to want to find out more about you. I'm sure you'll have people reaching out that want to talk to you because you have absolutely impacted my life in such a positive way. I can't talk about, I tell everyone, I'm like, I have this great girl named Val. And then I try to explain, I'm like, well, she's an energy healer. And then I lose a few people. I'm like, no, listen, you have to understand, it's not insane. It's real. But you know that, there's always going to be people who are skeptics, and those aren't your people. Yeah,
and look, I love, my favorite type of people are the people that come in, sit down and go, I don't believe anything you do.
Oh,
seriously, it's my favorite because I'm like, okay, great. I'm not here to tell anyone to believe in anything. I'm just here to help people grow. And what happens is I start chipping away at things that they don't know how I either found out or things that hit them right to the core. And they can't deny it anymore. They just go, okay, whatever, I'll listen.
Yeah.
I'm not here.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Oh, no, you're fine. I'm just not, it's not a religious belief. This is purely we are all here growing and we need tools, and we're not taught how to use, what we have in us.
Mm-hmm.
So my job is to empower people, use the stuff within us. We don't need external stuff to help us grow.
Yep.
So
yep.
that's, you know.
And you will say things to me. You're like, what happened to you when you were 6? And I'm like, oh my God, like, how do you know that happened to me when I was 6? And like, we will talk about it. And you're like, there was a big shift. And there was a massive shift. That's when I left my grandparents' house and it changed my life. And, you know, for the bad. And like, it's just funny. And then you said, you need to talk to yourself like you're 6 and then write a letter to 6-year-old Christy. And just like these things that made sense to me that you would have no way of knowing. Like,
none.
How would you know that?
And sometimes it doesn't make any sense to me. I'll just say it. And then, you know, something will make sense to you. But yeah, I mean, I think I function a little differently than I guess most, I would say, like psychics out there. And there's nothing wrong with how they function, but I'm here to tell people that like you can be spiritual and you can have spiritual understandings and embody them without feeling like you need to look spiritual. Like I'm just a normal girl who likes stuff like everyone else. I just happen to know that like we have a lot of power in us and we can use it to move through this life with ease. And that's what I want to teach people.
I think that is a perfect note to wrap it up. Like you can move through this life with ease because you just need to tap into your own power. Put that on a t-shirt. That is your, like, that is your mission for sure. So where can people find you, Val?
Either on Instagram, which is Val Maya, which is spelled interesting, M-Y-A, not M-A-Y-A. So Valerie M-Y-A.
Okay, but it's Valerie, just like normal spelling of Valerie. And I'll put this in the show notes as well.
Sure, but it's Valerie Mya.
Okay.
Or my website, which is the same, valeriemaya.com or becomelight.com.
Becomelight.com. Yes. And I know you have guidance cards, like daily guidance cards that we have in my house. And it's interesting because you say like how to use them. You have a little description card, how to use them. And I bought Chloe a deck and then Claire and I share a deck and we use them. I do. I look at them every morning. I'll just like pick my card. And then one day Chloe was sitting here and she had, I don't know if that's, hold on. Okay, there was another call coming in. I have to make that note. Okay, so Chloe was sitting here and she pulled out 3 cards. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm doing the other option. I'm like, what the hell is that option? So I didn't know there was a second option. I just read the first one because that's who I am in life. I read the easiest one and I was like, done. That works for me.
Hey, that's good.
And then, of course,
for you.
Chloe did the more in-depth version. Are we shocked? No. Okay. All right, Val. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You were so fun to talk to, as usual. And I'm sure I'll be in touch soon because I feel like my vibrations are all off and crazy, and I need to talk to you on a personal level.
You're doing great.
All
and
right.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. All right. Thank you again. Bye.
Thank you.
I told you. Wasn't that just so uplifting? I think Val is just someone who makes me personally just feel good and kind of makes me, she's sort of like a check. Like she makes me check in with myself and see what I need. She's like a little reminder, but not in a naggy way. So I really hope that you took something away from that interview that you can apply to your life, because I think we all could use a little bit more attention on ourselves, truly. And when you're able to show up for yourself, then you can show up for everyone else around you. So please take that advice to heart. I would love to hear how you're going to take care of you. I would love to hear some of those passion hobbies. Like, who wants to be a mixologist with me? Wouldn't that be fun? I feel like we could. Who remembers the 80s movie with Tom Cruise, Cocktail? I could be like the new version of Cocktail. And then I could travel to college campuses all across the country and be a guest mixologist. Okay. Am I onto something? Should I patent that? Patent that. Trademark. That's trademarked. Don't steal my idea. I'm trademarking it. Okay. So I was going to answer questions on the couch today, but I feel like the question that I get over and over and over from everyone is about balance and staying motivated. And I absolutely 100% think that Val answered a lot of those questions. And the interview was a little bit long. So I don't want to take up any more of your precious time, your ear space, if you will. So we're going to just leave it at that. Please let me know if you do have questions for Christy's Couch, like DM me at Christy's Couch on Instagram. You can also DM me at Christy Lucasiak. I want to hear your questions. I can answer them. I'm excited to always take these. But again, I just didn't want to bog you down. And if you could do me a giant, huge, really kind favor, if you can rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, any 5-star reviews I can get really do help me in, I don't know, all the charts or whatever whatever the appropriate podcast situation is. It does help a lot, and it takes like 2 seconds. So if you could take those 2 seconds, I would appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So I can't wait to see you next week. We have a very special episode because it is my birthday next week. So my birthday's on Wednesday. So next time I talk to you, I will be 44 years old. And, I'm pretty freaking proud that I'm 44 because I've lived a long time. I've learned a lot. And maybe we'll reflect a little bit on the wise things. Maybe I'll do an episode, talking to my younger self. Wouldn't that be fun? I would tell her, don't get married at 23. Kidding, Mark. Kidding. Love ya. Okay. Talk to you soon. Have a great week. And don't do anything that I wouldn't do. Bye.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing whilst you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture. Then cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy podcast on your podcast app.